need to talk to somebody besides us stupid kids.
Oh, yeah? Well, a man is entitled to come home and find dinner on the table without having to wade through a convention of male strippers.
Dad?
What do you want?
Yell at me, okay?
Shut up and leave us alone.
Yell at me again.
Yell at you. I'll come in there and pound your miserable hide. What do I have to do to gain respect around here? I'm going to give you a tanning like you never heard in your life. My word is my law. You understand? Law.
Hello, everybody. Today we are going to talk about Matilda, written by Roald. Today's presenters are María José Hernández, Silvia Ilich, Adriana León, and Daniela Rodriguez. Today we're going to cover a short overview. We're going to talk about the author's life. We are going to present you some stylistic characteristics of the book. And finally, we are going to show you some thematic discussion that can take place around the book. The overview is in charge of María José Hernández.
A little bit about the book. The full title is Matilda. It was written in England in 1987, but it was published in 1988. The genre is a children's novel and fantasy. The setting takes place in an English village. The main characters are Matilda, Miss Honey, Miss Trunchbull, and Matilda's parents. The narrator is in third person. The book was marked by the influence of wider 1980s culture and media. We can see this in the impact that television had in every family being a conflict in their relationships. Feminist movements and women's rights from the 80s inspired the author in the making of the character Miss Honey, as she wanted her financial freedom and living on her own. We can also see another symbol, that is the Star Troopers from Star Wars, which were very famous in the 80s. Lastly, the reflected school punishment presented by Miss Trunchbull and how in the 80s it was prohibited from schools. This is a story of a gifted girl with an unconcerned family. Her parents don't care and don't realize about her activities, education, nor even her special skills. This girl is called Matilda, and she's 5 years old. She's a clever, intelligent, genius, and independent human being in spite of her short age. She's good at mathematics and reading. Matilda enrolled in a school, and there she faces the two opposite types of teachers. A rude one called Trunchbull, who punishes kids in different ways, and Mrs. Honey, a soft-hearted teacher who is in the will to teach and help students with his love and passion for her profession. Also, she met different students who teach her several lessons. Matilda uses her secret power to make the Trunchbull believe that Miss Honey's father, Ghost, wants Miss Trunchbull to return the family home and fortune to Miss Honey. Now, Adriana is going to talk about a little about the author.
Okay, so let's start about the author, Roald Dahl. He was a Welsh author and well-known writer novelist, mostly in children's literature. He didn't work in the field of education, but some of his stories may have been based on his childhood memories and role as a father. In his early life, his mother sent him to different boarding schools, but those were not pleasant experiences. He didn't enjoy the school because many of the teachers were cruel and often punished the students. When he was 13, he had to face not only how the headmaster of the school enjoyed beating and punishing children, but also how older students used the younger ones as servants. After school, he didn't live up to his mother's expectations. He didn't enroll in an university, but he worked for an oil company and for a Royal Air Force. Some years later, in his 30s, he started to work for the British security in the USA. There was when he got on writing. There he started to write newspapers articles by giving his vision about the world. But it was only until the 60s that his books started to catch on. There followed a burst of literary energy. In 1961, James and the Giant Peach was published in the USA, followed by Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And by the 80s, he published different books, including one of his bestsellers, Matilda. He once said that in order to see life from a child's point of view, it was necessary to get down on your hands and knees to look up at the adults towering about you, telling you what to do. That theory was reflected and proved in some of his books, especially in Matilda. So now let's move on the stylistic characteristics in search of Daniela Rodriguez.
In terms of genre, this book can be considered children's fantasy or comedy because even though the author does use some challenging vocabulary, for the most part, the book is written in a very easy to follow and understand narrative. The book also has a lot of historical descriptions that make the narrative fun to read. Even when it is used to describe very sad or complicated situations or insult somebody, the way in which it is described makes it fun and entertaining for the reader. In terms of the thematic, the book combines a realistic and fantastic setting. It is realistic because it focuses and follows the daily life of a very dysfunctional and peculiar family, but it also includes the life of the students and the teachers at school. In the most part, it focuses on Matilda's family, but the interactions that they have with the world are also very important. However, the story also has a lot of fantastic and magical aspects that are a part of this everyday life. These fantastical aspects interact with the story in a way in which it changes the way the story develops. This mixture of fantasy, comedy, and realism is told through a very thorough narrative style in third person that focuses on Matilda's thoughts and feelings, but it occasionally includes other characters as well. In terms of the themes, the book uses themes such as loyalty, children and adults' relationship of power, which are very complicated, control, cleverness, reward against punishment, and others that are included in the development of the story for each character, and especially in their interactions with each other and with their world throughout the story. The author uses a very particularly strong imagery that is characteristic of this historical narrative style that was previously mentioned. For example, it can be seen when the author describes the way and the appearance of Miss Trunchbull, her size and her presence. It's very clear what he wants to transmit with those descriptions. It can also be seen in the way in which the author describes the torture devices and the halls of the school, but he also describes the smiles, the way in which Matilda's house feels like, and this is very particular of this book because throughout the book there is a very particular characteristic that is the very thorough descriptions that the author uses.
Now, talking about the thematic discussion, the first concern is about the role of parents. The parents looked upon Matilda, in particular, as nothing more than a escape. They were more concerned about their businesses and attendance events like bingo, going out, or watching the TV, more than taking care of Matilda. Matilda's parents in the book are distant and problematic. They don't give a good example to their children, and overall, their lack of presence causes a negative impact in Matilda. She discovered her powers through anger, and she's also forced to be independent from a very young age. The conflict between children and cruel, oppressive adults is consistent throughout the novel. It is the it is first seen in the relationship between Matilda and her parents, who often come into conflict because of Matilda's desire to study and learn new things. They don't like that she's smart, and they don't understand what she is concerned about being a better human being. They force her to educate herself. The conflict continues with Miss Trunchbull and the children of the primary school. Children, children such as Lavender and Matilda believe that the principal of the school is a bully and she needs a dose of her own medicine. This represents this conflict because parents and adults around children are creating negative feelings in these little children just because they want to control them. The role of teachers. The book demonstrates both sides of the coin with the portrayal of Mrs. Honey and Miss Trunchbull. They both influence students' life. Mrs. Honey in a positive way and Miss Trunchbull in a completely negative way. Mrs. Honey has a mild and quiet personality. She never raised her voice and was seldom seemed to smile. She possessed a rare gift for being adored by every small children under her care. Um, she is dealing with her own unsolved traumas and is an example of resilience because of her own experience as an orphan child living with her evil aunt, Miss Trunchbull. She grew up to serve and encourage kids to be brave and study hard in order to face any problem in their lives. She is the most influential person in Matilda's life. She sees her potential and understands her. She's trying to help her at any time, and she gives her a lot of books in order to encourage her to keep studying. Mm, Mrs. Honey can feel herself reflected in Matilda, while Miss Trunchbull is always trying to control every single aspect of a student's life and trying to impose her own rules and way of thinking. No matter she is not a good example to follow and is not a person who is teaching not only with words but with actions. So the role of teacher is really important for the development of the book, but also for the development of children learning abilities and personality during their whole lives. Now we invite you to listen carefully to the game we have created for you.
The instructions of the game are very simple. You are going to go to the link in the description below, and you are going to play a little quiz to challenge yourself about information about the book Matilda. We hope you enjoy it. Please like this video and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Thank you.